Fascism has officially hit our shores, so Liz Truss has been hanging out with the far-right crazies at APAC, and she said some pretty wild things. Take a look.
I wanted to cut taxes, I wanted to cut the size of the administrative state, and those people didn't like it. The economic establishment in Britain wanted to keep things the way they were, and they did. They got me. But I have learned from that, Steve.
You did. Hold on. Was it The Economist that got you? Was it the Financial Times of London? Are these the people we got? This is the party at the City of London. Are they the ones that run the deal over there?
These are the friends of the bureaucratic establishment. They are the friends of the deep state. And they work together with bureaucrats, of which we've got many more in Britain than you have here in the United States, to keep things the same. And people in Britain aren't happy about that. They want change, but it's being stopped. And that's why we need a bigger bazooka.
Now, conservatives, and I mean small c conservatives, not our political party, can never seem to accept their own failings or that their views are unpopular. There always has to be some kind of conspiracy. You know, the woke left mob brought me down. No, fascists simply have bad ideas, and because those ideas are so incredibly bad, it just makes them incompetent. Look, as I became more left-wing as I got older, the less conspiratorial I am. And that's because, I'm sorry to say, that as a leftist, you just have a better understanding of the world. I mean, you can see structurally how things work for the most part. We are living under global capitalism, right? So, of course, the main motivator is profit. And that goes for almost everything. But people who have ideas with no material analysis kind of fall down the conspiracy rabbit hole. You know, that's mostly the right. They'll say that corporations are trying to push a woke agenda. They'll say things like, oh, there's a cabal of left-wing bureaucrats secretly plotting to bring people down. It's always some kind of external thing. It's always some secret group. And I think that's why anti-Semitic tropes come about from the right. And it's why today, when people talk about the woke agenda, the liberal elite, they simply mean Jews. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them definitely mean that. And I've seen people say that Jews are plotting against white people. Jews are pushing this woke agenda. I mean, someone said that on Twitter, and Elon Musk, the man who literally owns the platform, tweeted in reply, said, I agree. But on the left, you can see the reality of it all. I mean, for example, Jeremy Corbyn. Look, it's correct to say that he was no friend of the establishment. The media were definitely biased against him. But we can explain how and why. His politics delineated from Britain's foreign policy. And domestically, he wanted to redistribute wealth from the economic elites, who obviously stood to financially lose out. It's very simple. It's not a conspiracy. But still, many of us would admit fault on our own failings, would admit that Jeremy Corbyn wasn't blameless. There were mistakes that were made. When it comes to the media, the left critique of the media is not conspiratorial. It's not like we think there's a secret group in a dark room plotting to attack the working class, you know, pulling the strings on certain narratives of the media. That's not how it works, right? The journalists in the mainstream media believe exactly what they're saying, but the media is self-selecting. It filters out those who challenge power. And again, that's not some conspiracy. That is a natural process when you have a media ecosystem that is largely built on being mates with the right people, where you get access, going to a private school, etc. But the right, they just flat out think that there's a woke left-wing mob out to get people. Liz Truss, she wasn't brought down like she claimed she was. She decided to cut taxes for her rich mates with no way to pay for it during a cost of living crisis. This spooked the markets and crashed the economy. She then resigned. That is all on her, nobody else. And now she's going across the Atlantic, hanging out with extremists like Steve Bannon, saying she was brought down by the establishment. Look, if there was a systemic attempt to get rid of Liz Truss, she would never have been there in the first place. She's an MP, so she already has some level of power. Then she ran for leader. Then she won. Then she became prime minister. Nothing stopped her then. Plus, the policies she was trying to push were no different from 40 years of neoliberalism. It was the establishment. And it's kind of hard to believe that she started out as a Lib Dem when she was younger, calling for the monarchy to be abolished, and pretty good politics. And then most of her career, she was a mainstream Tory. And now because she spent, a few months in the US, she's a grifter. She's got no principles, and she's gobbled up all the far-right nonsense and is just trying to make herself relevant. And she's trying to import fascism from the US. But do you know what? She doesn't have to do it alone because she has help. Suella Braverman, who I think is our country's worst MP, said Islamists are in charge of Britain in a Telegraph article, which the Telegraph is a mainstream media outlet and has bolstered her argument, platformed this nonsense. It's an absolutely deranged thing to say. I mean, who are these Islamists? How do they control Britain? She also said this: the truth is that the Islamists, the extremists, and the anti-Semites are in charge now. They have bullied the Labour Party, they have bullied our institutions, and now they have bullied our country into submission. It's a common trope that Muslims hate Jews. This has been echoed through the media since the 7th of October. It's why they've been saying that those who have been participating in the ceasefire marches are all anti-Semites, because simply, if you're standing up for Muslims, then they think you're essentially promoting anti-Semitism. It is a gross lie, which has gone pretty much unchallenged. Now, Lee Anderson says something similar, and thankfully he's been suspended, but he went on GB News and proclaims that Sadiq Khan has given London to the Islamist extremists. Now, this is obviously an appallingly racist and Islamophobic thing to say, simply because, well, Sadiq Khan is a Muslim. That must mean he is an extremist. It's fucking vile, and it's far-right nonsense. The country is not controlled by Islamists. Majority of our MPs are white Christians. Where is this Islamist interference? Can they provide any substantive evidence? Of course they can't. Now, meanwhile, they say nothing about the very real Israel and US lobby in this country. The US dictates what our foreign policy is. And of course, we back Israel through and through, even though there is a genocide happening. We're seeing people like Douglas Murray, Matt Goodwin given bigger platforms to spout their fascist crap. I mean, Douglas Murray has built his entire career on attacking Muslims. Matt Goodwin has been pushing this crazy new elite nonsense where the elite aren't the billionaires and corporations, but university graduates and people who are woke. It's absolute toilet paper level of intellect. This is why our country can't have nice things. We could have had redistribution of wealth and power. We could have had public ownership, an end to homelessness and poverty, burning down neoliberalism. But instead we have this utter shite, this grim, dark country. The choice in 2019 was socialism or barbarism, and we chose the latter. People need to understand that centrist mainstream politics enabled the far-right rhetoric we are seeing now and the far-right politics, because the so-called grown-ups refuse to address the multiple crises we face. This has led to more radical politics on both the left and the right. Now, the left, which appeared in 2015, I mean, it didn't start there, but it became its most popular in this period, manifested through Jeremy Corbyn, Syriza in Greece, Mélenchon in France, and Bernie Sanders in the US. These people sought to offer an alternative to austerity. Now, around the same time, again, it didn't start there. We've had it for a long time, but the right emerged too. Obviously, we've had disgusting Islamophobic nonsense from New Labour, but it became popular. The alt-right became popular. Donald Trump in 2015, 2016. And because the mainstream media is incapable of actual journalism, they thought, and they still do think this, that the left and the right are just fringes of society and essentially came out of nowhere. They had no grasp of the material conditions which led to this explosion of populism. But not only that, the establishment decided to attack the left way more than the right. Instead of understanding that people wanted a change from the status quo, it was just much easier to call Corbyn a hard-left anti-Semite communist. Now, why this response? Why did politicians and the media aggressively attack the left and were essentially sleepwalking when the right was bubbling up? It's because the left held a mirror up to these people and they didn't like it. The left talk about power and institutions. The right don't go after institutions. They talk about culture wars, and naturally, they went after minorities. And as crass as that was for mainstream pundits, I mean, they may shed a little tear, it doesn't really affect their positions. They didn't focus much of their attention on it, and they didn't really bother to critically analyse why this divisive politics arose, and some became very comfortable. Some people actually benefited from the rise in the far right, and they just rode that wave. And because of the lack of material analysis from the media, the consensus from the liberal wing of the establishment was that someone like David Cameron was the adult in the room, whereas Boris Johnson was the devil. Even though Boris Johnson spent way more than any previous Tory prime minister since 2010, talked about the environment, introduced furlough, increased benefits in line with inflation. Some of these are quite left-wing policies, but that didn't matter because, well, he was a loose cannon and he couldn't dress properly. But David Cameron, on the other hand, was smart and slick, a true statesman, and that's all that matters. And what doesn't matter is that him and George Osborne socially murdered 330,000 people due to austerity. Everything is broken. Public services are fucked. The country is just so incredibly poor. We are living in a grim nightmare, but at least the jam man was defeated, so all is well. So here we are today. The country isn't just moving towards fascism. There aren't warning signs of fascism. Fascism has well and truly arrived. And the pundits, the liberal centrist types in the mainstream media, are left scratching their heads, wondering how this all happened with zero introspection. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and drop a comment. It's good for the algorithm and I'm interested in what you have to say. If you're not already subscribed, please do and hit the notification bell. You can also support this channel by becoming a member for 99p per month. And if you're feeling a little more generous, then you can support us on Patreon for £3 or £5 per month. This channel for a while has been uploading every single day, and it's quite a lot of work that is still voluntary and scheduled around my paid work. But I have so much ambition, expect in the future to see more variety in content, such as interviews and Vox Pops. But I want this to be a fully fledged media organisation where not only is this my full-time job, but to have multiple people working for Turn Left. I like to see a live show in the future, more content that delves into culture, history, and much more. But that can only be done if there's money. So please, if you can, support us in any way that's in your capacity. And thank you to existing members, subscribers, and patrons. See you next time.